Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 7th February 2021. And the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. So let us start the discussion. Now, this article on page number 8 reads that the Delhi opts to wait and watch the United States' foreign policy shift. Now, we all know that United States of America has recently elected the new president in the form of Joe Biden. And accordingly, there have been speculations that there will be a shift in the foreign policy of the United States of America because of the new president. Now, accordingly, India has also been waiting and watching the US foreign policy approach or the likely shift in the United States of America's foreign policy under the new president. So, in this regard, in a recent speech at the US State Department, the new president talked about the US foreign policy approach and the issues that the US has with Russia and China. However, there was no mention of India at this speech, and this has led to speculation about the future of India US ties under the likely changes that are to be seen in the US's foreign policy towards India. So, in this background, let us look at the highlights of the speech by the President of United States of America and also what are the speculations related to United States of America keeping a mum on its foreign policy approach towards India. Now, we have all seen a lot of articles in newspapers related to the election of Joe Biden as the new president of United States of America. And accordingly, we have seen various articles regarding the likely foreign policy approach that the US is going to have towards India and also the future of India-US ties. Accordingly, in the latest speech, the United States of America's president has not taken the name of India or has not referred to its foreign policy towards India. And that has led to a lot of speculations about the future of India-US ties. So, what were the highlights of the speech of the United States of America? So, firstly, the President of US did not refer to India, Indo-Pacific, South China Sea, or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, which were the main foreign policy planks of the Donald Trump administration. Secondly, regarding China, the President of United States of America talked about economic, intellectual property rights, and human right aspects. However, the president did not talk about any security concerns that are emanating from China. And in this background, he called China the United States of America's most serious competitor. Regarding Russia, the US president referred to as a threat that is determined to damage democracy in the United States of America. Now, in this background, it is being speculated that India and South Asia are not a priority for the new administration as of now. And that is because the new administration is focusing on addressing the domestic challenges which have started because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And also it is focused on assuring the United States of America's erstwhile allies in Europe and other parts of the world. However, a cause of concern here is that the new president-elect Joe Biden has till now not made any call to the Indian Prime Minister. However, there have been calls that have been made by Defense Secretary, National Security Advisor, and the Secretary of the State of the United States of America to their Indian counterpart. So it has been said that although the President of the US and the Indian Prime Minister have not talked till now, the other important functionaries in both the governments are in continuous touch. And the most important speculation that is going on right now is that will the new US administration slap sanctions on India when India takes the delivery of the Russian S-400 missile system under the CAATSA law or the Countering American Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. Whether the new administration will slap sanctions or not, it is to be seen in the future. So, because the United States of America's president did not mention about or refer to India and the Indo-Pacific in the latest speech related to foreign policy, it is being speculated that what is going to be the future of India-US relations. So clearly this is a news in transition, and how the India-US relations unfold under the new president will be seen in the coming months. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article on page number 8 reads that India is now the pharmacy of the world. And this statement has been given by the Minister of External Affairs. And he has said that India has converted the COVID 19 crisis into an opportunity. Now, in this background, we all know that India's pharmaceutical sector is one of the important sectors for Indian economy. And in this line, this pharmaceutical sector sometimes faces some of the issues related to imports of the active pharmaceutical ingredients from China. So, in this article, we will try and understand what are these active pharma ingredients, why is India having higher import dependence on China for these APIs, and finally, we'll look at what are the initiatives that have been taken by the government of India for promoting the manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients or the APIs for which India is largely dependent upon China. And these aspects can be important for us from General Studies paper 3 point of view in the topic economic development. Now, presently, the Indian pharmaceutical industry is the largest in the world in terms of volume and is 14th largest in terms of value. And the total revenue of the pharmaceutical products in 2018 and 19 in India was around $41 billion. And it included the exports from India around $20 billion. And this year, it is being said that the Indian pharmaceutical industry is expected to export medicines and other goods worth over $25 billion in the current financial year. That is, Indian pharma exports are likely to increase. So in this line, it is being said that Indian pharmaceutical sector is having two unique opportunities. First is that India is one of the largest producer of quality generic medicines, and that too at a very affordable price. Secondly, even during the COVID 19 crisis, most of the Indian vaccine companies have worked closely with academic institutions and industry outside India. And India is also the only country in the world that can produce COVID 19 vaccines in large volumes. And that is why India has been able to convert this COVID 19 crisis into an opportunity because of the strong pharmaceutical sector that exists in India. Now, regarding the vaccine development, we have already studied in the previous DNS videos. However, in this article, let us look at what are some of the issues that are faced by the Indian pharmaceutical industry and why is India mainly dependent on import of the active pharmaceutical ingredients from China. Now, in this background, it has been said that if Indian pharmaceutical industry wants to become self-reliant, there is a need to reduce India's dependence on the import of active pharmaceutical ingredients from China. So, in this line, let us look at the constraints that are there in manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients in India and what needs to be done to make our pharma industry self-reliant. Now, regarding pharmaceutical drugs, you should note that these are made of two core components. And first part is the active pharmaceutical ingredient or the API, which is the central ingredient. While the second part of all the drugs is excipient, and this helps in delivering the medication. Now, regarding the API, it is the part of any drug that produces the intended effects. And there might be drugs which might have a combination or might have multiple active ingredients. Now, regarding the excipients, you should note that these are chemically inactive substances and they can include lactose, mineral oil, etc., which are used in delivering the medication in the patients. Now, these active pharmaceutical ingredients in Indian market are mainly used for the development of generic drugs, which is one of the important constituent of the pharmaceutical sector in India. And some of these common active pharmaceutical ingredients or APIs that are used in Indian market include the clopidogrel bisulfate, which is used for treatment of clots, atorvastatin, which is used for reducing high cholesterol, etc. However, for the development of drugs in India, India needs to import most of these active pharmaceutical ingredients from China. And before 1991, the Indian pharma industry imported only about 0.3% of its API requirements from China. However, presently the situation is that almost two-thirds of the APIs or the active pharmaceutical ingredients are imported from China. And in some of the specific active pharmaceutical ingredients, the import dependence is as high as 80 to 100%. Now, the reasons for such high import dependency of APIs from China is that imports from China work out to be cheaper and cost effective. And in this line, it also needs to be learned that China is the largest producer of APIs in the world and accounts for about 20% of the world's production of the active pharmaceutical ingredients. Secondly, the Indian pharma industry prefers imports of APIs from China because of the uncertainty of price fluctuations from other producers such as United States of America, Italy, etc. Besides this, there is lack of suitable policies and incentives to boost indigenous development and production of essential APIs within India. And also it has been seen that there has been lack of timely environmental clearances and a lot of red tape is involved in giving the licenses for the production of active pharmaceutical ingredients in India. Now, besides these reasons, there are several constraints and challenges in the production of active pharmaceutical ingredients in India. And these include the non availability of raw materials, chemicals, and solvents which are required for manufacturing of APIs. Secondly, if APIs are manufactured in India, the cost would be 20% higher as compared to China. And that is why Indian pharma industry is dependent upon import of APIs from China. Thirdly, there is lower profit margin in the manufacturing of the APIs. And this is the main reason why Indian pharma companies are concentrating more on the production of finished formulations rather than on the production of APIs. So, although the Indian pharmaceutical industry has the advantage of producing the largest amount of finished drug formulations, but it is still having challenges in terms of producing the APIs. And that is mainly because of the lower profit margin that is there in the manufacturing of the APIs. And finally, it is being said that there is inadequate financial support to the Indian companies for the manufacture of such active pharmaceutical ingredients. Now, to deal with these challenges and constraints, Government of India is providing or has taken up certain initiatives to promote the manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients. First is the scheme for the promotion of bulk drugs. And this scheme seeks to finance common infrastructure facilities in three mega bulk drug parks, which will be in partnership with the state governments. And in this line, the Government of India will give grant in aid to the states with a maximum limit of rupees 1000 crores per bulk drug park. Second incentive that the Government of India is providing is production linked incentive scheme. And under this, financial incentive will be provided to eligible manufacturers for identified 53 critical bulk drugs, and that will be provided on their incremental sales over the base year of 2019 and 20 for a period of 6 years. Thirdly, as a part of the Make in India, the Government of India has identified several champion sectors, and these include 15 manufacturing sectors as well as 12 service sectors. And under these champion sectors, pharmaceutical industry is one of the important sectors that has been identified by the Government of India under its flagship Make in India. Now, although the Government of India has taken various initiatives, still a lot of work needs to be done for improving the manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients in India. So let us look at some of the suggestions that are there regarding improvement of the production of APIs in India. Now, it has been said that India needs to build a national stockpile of the active pharmaceutical ingredients to ensure uninterrupted supply to the pharmaceutical sector so that it can reduce the import from China. Secondly, there is a need for creation of mega drug manufacturing clusters which will have common infrastructure facilities. And as we note that the Government of India is providing some incentives for the creation of such mega drug manufacturing clusters. Third is that drugs manufactured from indigenously manufactured APIs should be given preference in the government procurements, and that will encourage the manufacturing of APIs in India. After that, there is a need for increasing the customs duty on the imported APIs in a phased manner. Further, alternate markets needs to be explored. For example, India can explore other countries which are also producing the APIs. For example, Vietnam, Indonesia, etc. And this should be done only till India starts developing or has the capability of indigenously manufacturing the APIs or active pharmaceutical ingredients. Further, there is a need for increasing collaboration between Indian industry and Indian academia to boost the production of chemicals that are required for the manufacturing of APIs. Further, early stage government R&D support is required in the form of fiscal incentives for the research and development of the APIs. And also, there's a need for adoption of good manufacturing practices and good laboratory practices by the MSME sector, which is largely involved in the manufacturing of the APIs. And also, there's a suggestion that Government of India needs to revitalize the public sector enterprises such as Hindustan Antibiotics Limited. So these are few suggestions that can be helpful in boosting the manufacturing or boosting the local manufacturing of APIs and reducing the dependence of India on China for the manufacturing of these APIs. And that will further boost the India's pharmaceutical sector, which is an important sector in the Indian economy. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this next article that is on page number 12 is related to a new announcement that has been made in the union budget. And this is related to one-person companies that have been introduced under the recent budget. And this is being seen as a sign of improving the ecosystem of startups in India. And it will be a push for individual entrepreneurs. So let us look at what are these one-person companies and how are they different from sole proprietorship firms, and what are the recent changes that have been introduced in the budget of 2021. And some of the aspects that we discuss here can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. Now, the Companies Act of 2013 provides for three types of companies which are dependent upon the number of members that are there in that particular company. First is one person company, which has a single member. Second is private limited company, which has at least two members and not more than 200 members. And then there are public limited companies which have at least 7 members, and there is no limit on the maximum members. In this line, in the budget of 2021, a new concept has been introduced, that is of one-person companies. And this was first put forward by the J.J. Irani Committee report on company law. In this line, the one-person companies have been provided significant leeway to reduce the compliance burden which was there regarding the functioning of other companies that are there in the Companies Act 2013. So, for example, such a company does not need to conduct an annual general meeting, which is required for other types of companies. So, this one-person companies concept has been introduced by the J.J. Irani Committee. In this background, let us understand how is this one-person company different from sole proprietorship firm. Now, the first point that needs to be learned is that in case of a sole proprietorship mode, the person and the company are not considered as separate legal entities, and they are considered as one legal entity, and the personal wealth and the asset of a person are linked to the business itself. And there is unlimited liability of the owner of the sole proprietorship firm. So, for example, if an individual invests rupees 50,000 in a sole proprietorship, the sole proprietorship then incurs rupees 2 lakh worth bad debt. So, in such a case, the individual is personally liable for the entire 2 lakh amount, even though he has only invested rupees 50,000 in the business. And this means that a bank could legally seize the personal assets of the individual in order to pay the debts of the business. However, in case of one person company, the person and the company are considered as separate legal entities. And accordingly, the liability of the person is limited only to its investment. So this is the main difference between one person company and the sole proprietorship firm. Now, what are the recent changes that have been introduced under the budget? First is the doing away with the restrictions on the capital in such one person companies. Now, presently, as per the rules, the company would be treated as one person company provided that its paid up share capital does not exceed rupees 50 lakh or its average turnover for the preceding 3 years does not exceed rupees 2 crore. So, this is the present situation. Secondly, if the paid up share capital or the turnover exceeds the threshold, then it can no longer be treated as one person company and it would be required to get converted into a private limited or public limited company. In this background, the finance minister in the recent budget has decided to lift the restriction on the share capital or the turnover and has enabled them to grow without any restrictions. So these restrictions that were there regarding the paid up capital, etc., have now been done away with. Secondly, a major change has been done regarding the eligibility of opening one person companies. Earlier, only Indian citizens and an Indian resident could start a single person company. However, now even the non resident Indians can open such companies in India. So, the changes that have been introduced regarding the one person company under the Union Budget of 2021 can be important for us from the prelims examination point of view. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article in today's Sunday magazine is related to an art form from the state of Karnataka, and this art form is known as the Kinnal art. And it reads that social media is giving a boost and an international profile to the traditional artisans of Kinhal and their wooden dolls. So, the Kinnal art can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view under the topic art and culture. Let us look at some important facts related to this art form. Now, regarding Kinnal craft, it has originated from Kinnal village, which is located in the state of Karnataka. Secondly, it was awarded a geographical indication tag in 2012, and the artisans who create the Kinnal craft dolls are known as the Chidragars. Further, these brightly colored, lightweight toys and religious idols are created from a local variety of wood that is known as Polki Mara, and it grows in and around the Jabbalguda village, which is around 30 kilometers from the Koppal. Now, the themes in such idols are mainly mythological, and these include idols of the deities, which include Hanuman, Garuda, Gauri, Durga, etc. And these are the prominent creations under the Kinnal craft. Further, besides the mythological themes, such artisans are also involved in making larger idols for the local village festivals and also palanquins, cradles, and chowkis. Now, this craft dates back to 15th or 16th century and it got prominence and patronage under the Vijayanagara Empire. And the intricate carvings on the famous Hampi chariot are believed to be the handiwork of the ancestors of the Chidragaras who are presently creating the Kinnal craft. So these are few important facts that can be asked in our preliminary examination. So do remember them. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article on page number 9 reads that Sri Lanka settles $400 million currency swap with India. Now, you might be knowing that India had signed this currency swap agreement with Sri Lanka back in July 2020 and when the world was facing the COVID 19 crisis. And due to this COVID 19 crisis, the Sri Lankan economy was badly hit, and accordingly, India provided this $400 million currency swap to the Sri Lankan government. Now, accordingly, this currency swap agreement was provided for a 3-month window. However, due to the COVID 19, it was further extended for another 3 months. And accordingly, the Sri Lankan government has presently settled this $400 million currency swap agreement with India. Now, as the time period of this currency swap agreement has been completed, it is being speculated that India did not extend this currency swap facility further for Sri Lanka. And that is because of the Sri Lanka's refusal of India participating in the development of East Container Terminal in Colombo. Now, Sri Lanka is reeling under a phase of grave amount of debt and it owes a huge amount of foreign exchange to the China as well as India in the form of debt. Now, we had already covered this currency swap agreement back in July 2020, and in that particular article, what was important for us from the exam point of view was that what is exactly meant by a currency swap agreement and how it works. So, in that explanation, we have taken the example of a currency swap agreement between India and USA and how it would function from the Indian perspective and how a currency swap agreement is important from India's perspective. So let us revise from that DNS video what is the importance of a currency swap agreement from Indian point of view and what were the key details of the currency swap agreement that was signed between India and Sri Lanka back then. Now, this article on page number 14 reads that the RBI has signed a $400 million currency swap facility for Sri Lanka. And this currency swap facility has come in the background of declining foreign exchange reserves in Sri Lanka. So, this agreement aims at countering the currency volatility in Sri Lanka. Now, similarly, recently there was a large-scale outflows of foreign portfolio investments from India, and this led to the shortage of dollars, and it also led to record fall in the value of rupee vis-a-vis the dollars. So, in order to address the volatility in the exchange rate and to make available dollars in the domestic market, India was in discussion with the United States of America for dollar swap line. And also India has already entered into currency swap agreements with number of countries, for example, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, SAARC countries, etc. So in this background, let us understand how the currency swap agreement actually works from the Indian perspective. And this can be important for us from the General Studies paper 2 point of view under the topic International Relations, and can also be important for us from the economy point of view under the General Studies paper 3 point of view. So now let us understand how would the proposed dollar swap line work between India and United States of America. So let's say there's a swap that has been agreed to between these countries for $100 applicable for 3 months. So in the first leg of such an agreement, the RBI would provide $100 worth Indian rupees to the US Fed Bank, and this would be provided at prevailing exchange rate. And in return, the Fed Bank would provide equivalent value of dollars to the Reserve Bank of India. Now let's say the prevailing exchange rate is that $1 is equal to rupees 70. So effectively, the RBI would provide rupees 7,000 to the Fed Bank, and in return, it would get $100. Now in the second leg, that is after 3 months, the US Fed Bank would return rupees 70,000 and take back $100 from the Reserve Bank of India. And this transaction will take place at the exchange rate which was fixed in the first leg, that is at $1 equal to rupees 70. And due to this fixation of the exchange rates, there is no exchange rate risk involved in the currency swap agreements. So now if during the second leg of the transaction, that is after 3 months of the agreement, the exchange rate might have changed to $1 equal to rupees 80 or $1 equal to rupees 60. But still the swap take place at the exchange rate which was agreed to in the first leg of the transaction. And that is why the swap agreement prevents both the central banks from any kind of exchange rate risks. So basically, under a swap line or swap agreement, both the countries have fixed the exchange rate for a fixed period of time. Now, how would such an agreement help India? So the dollars which are availed under this currency swap agreement would act as second line of defense after the foreign exchange reserves. And we note that RBI normally uses its foreign exchange reserve to arrest the currency volatility. Further, it will help in reducing the speculation in the forex market and would provide stability to the exchange rate. So now what are the details of the currency swap agreement that India has signed with Sri Lanka? Now, as per the agreement, the Reserve Bank of India has decided to provide $400 million currency swap facility for Sri Lanka. And this agreement would not only be important for Sri Lankan economy, but it is also important from the Indian interests point of view. Now, we know that the higher dependence of the Sri Lankan government on the Chinese loans has led to a form of debt trap for Sri Lanka. And accordingly, this agreement is in the form of a rescue package which has been extended by the Indian government. Further, this agreement paves the way for strengthening of economic relationship between India and Sri Lanka. And thus, such an agreement paves the way for opportunities in other avenues as well, for example, boosting of trade and investment between these two economies. Now, after looking at the currency swap agreement which has been signed between India and Sri Lanka, let us look at an analysis that has come up in today's newspaper which highlights the need for resetting ties between India and Sri Lanka. Now, this article on page number 12 is related to the government's regulation on the technology platforms like Twitter, etc. And it is related to a recent notice that was issued by the central government to the Twitter. And in this regard, it talks about what are the laws that govern cyber world in India. Now, all the aspects of the cyber laws that are operational in India have been covered in the DNS of 5th February 2021, that is just 2 days before. So do go through this article in the DNS video and try and understand the details of the various cyber laws that are functioning in India. Again, this article on page number 12 is related to the bad bank issue in India and the NPA crisis. And recently you might have seen the budget video that was uploaded by the Basawa sir, and in that all the aspects of bad banks and the proposals that have been provided in the Union Budget of 2021 have been discussed in detail. So do go through the Union Budget discussion video, and that is very important for us from the examination point of view. And in that particular video, all the important aspects that are there in this article have already been covered. So do go through that. With this, we conclude today's discussion. Let's take up the question for the day.